I'm going to rejoice and just be glad in it. Oh my goodness, this is something else new for me. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me this evening. Oh my God. I'm going to be talking to you about one of my favorite subjects, how to start your very own business, and that is the business of opening your very own group home. Now, I have always done these seminars in person. I like to be talking to people. I'm just funny that way. Call me old school, old fashioned, whatever you want to call me. That's what I usually do. But we're in a new time and everyone's doing something new and different, and I have to change too. And so I'm coming to you live via, what is this? The internet or whatever it is. Anyway, what I'm going to try to do is to talk to you briefly about two of the, I think, most popular types of group home. And y'all, can't talk to you about every one of them because we just don't have the time. But what I am going to do is I'm going to talk to you about the ones that I get the most requests for to do contracts. And that is, the first one will be called the Home and Community-Based Services Contract, commonly known as a group home contract, but we will go into why that's not exactly the truth and why it's so much more than that. I'll say that one more time: the Home and Community-Based Services, or a lot of people know it as HCS. That's H as in home, C as in community, and S as in services. The Home and Community-Based Services waiver, if you want to Google that. And then I'll also be talking about the assisted living. Now, this one is really funny to me because assisted living is a term that everybody uses so commonly. But to be clear, for the purpose of this webinar, when I say assisted living contract, I'm talking about the assisted living facility, a contract that is issued with a type A and or a type B license by the state of Texas. Okay, so I'm talking about an assisted living facility where you actually have a contract with the state, and these are the only two that I'll be able to cover tonight. I'll start with the HCS contract. Now, I want to just describe briefly to you what this is, and we call it a group home a contract, but actually, y'all, it's much more than that, because if you get an HCS contract, you have to be able to provide not only a group home setting, you have to be able to help the client in their own natural home, whether they live by themselves or whether they live with their parents or a family or friends. And you also have to be able to provide foster care, or y'all, the new term is host home companion care. And for those of you who don't know what that is like taking someone into your home or paying someone to take that person in your home. Now, typically most people identify this service as with children, and it's exactly the same thing, except for with the HCS waiver, it could be a child or an adult. And you get paid, or you pay someone to take care of this person in the family home as part of the family. So in HCS, you have to be able to provide services in all of these settings, and yet we call it a group home contract. Now, I'm just going to talk briefly about some of the things if you're interested in this type of contract. The entity that you will be applying for will be the state of Texas, okay? You will have a state contract which authorizes you to perform these services and many more. And once you get this contract, you will be authorized to provide these services for people in our state who have mental retardation issues. Oops, excuse me. New terminology is IDD, intellectually developmentally disabled, or I as intellectual, D as in developmental, and D as disabled, the IDD population only. So once you get the HCS contract, you're going to be authorized to provide services to people who have IDD. Now, what do you need to get this contract? Well, first of all, it is an application, so you have to be able to complete the application to the state's satisfaction. Okay, now there are a lot of things that you're going to have to know before you can complete the application. The application is not complicated. I would not say it's simple, but it's an application. It's a state application, you know. And if you've come this far and you are definitely listening and tuning in and have made up your mind that this is something you're interested in, you're probably already familiar with those steps. There's not enough time for me to go into what those steps are right now. I'll talk about just the mechanics of the ACS contract. But now the good news is, if you want the things that you have to do before you can even begin to complete your application, at the end of this webinar, I will I will direct you to my website, and you can go to the website and request the list of things that you must do before applying for the ACS contract. So I'll say that one more time. If you don't know, and most of you probably will know, but there's still some people who don't know, there are some specific things you have to do in order to be able to complete the contract. And you can go to my website, blessbeginnings.biz, and let me say that again, .biz, B-I-Z as in zebra. It is very common for us to go .com, but if you do .com, you never gonna find us. So you go to blessbeginning.biz and you click on the tab that says webinar, and if you want this list, you can follow those steps and I will send those to you. Okay, so once you complete the application, that's one part of the package. Then the next thing you have to do is you have to set up a time to go get a criminal background check. Okay, now this is not just a typical. You have to set up an appointment at a designated site, which is authorized by the state to conduct this criminal background. And you have to go to that place, and they will direct you as to what you will need to bring. So already you're doing an application. You got to go do a criminal background check, and y'all, this all goes in with the application. And then there's a section in there where you have to sign and certify that you have what's called policies and procedures. Well, remember, this is a state contract, so there are certain rules, and in ACS we call these rules principles, and you have to develop your own policies and procedures as to how you're going to implement these principles or these rules. That's real important because, first of all, it's part of the agreement that you have with the state. But second of all, when you go through each one of these rules and you develop a policy, in other words, how am I going to keep people safe? What are going to be the steps for that? If someone gets sick, what's going to be steps for that? And you have to have policies and procedures to address that. And then one of the things that's a little bit different from the ACS contract is that as part of the application process, you have to be able to pass a test. Yeah, that's right. After you get all the paperwork and you do all the things they ask you to do, and they say, hey, you got your application, you got everything we need. We're going to invite you down to what we call a PAO, a pre-application orientation, and that is a 2-day training where the state introduces you and tells you more about ACS. But now at the end of that training, they're going to give you a test. And that test will cover basically the principles and rules for ACS. Okay. Now, here's what's interesting. This is not a hard test, but it is not a test that you can pass if you have never worked in ACS or worked in a a program or setting where you're helping people. And I say that because it is really hard. As much as I've helped people, I've probably spent the last 40 years, yes, I'm getting old, I've probably spent the last 40 years helping people. And I know a lot of medical conditions, I know a lot of signs and symptoms, I know all of that. And yet, I would never presume to go down to the state of Texas and tell them that I am prepared to take the nurse board examiners to become a nurse, because guess what? I might even know some of the answers, but the jargons that they use, the professional terminology, I don't know none of that. So someone would literally have to translate that and then say, well, they're talking about this, and have you ever seen that before? And I might be able to tell them some stuff, but I would never presume to think that I could go down and pass the state nurses exam, and I have never studied or prepared for that. Now, here's what's interesting. When you go down to the PAO, they're going to say that you don't need any special consultation, you don't need to do anything but listen to them, and you will pass the test. And I've been down there several times, and I've heard them say that, and I always think, that ain't the truth, buddy. You're never going to pass this test based on just what they're telling you right now. Because first of all, they give the PAO not because they're interested in educating new providers. They give it because they are under contract with the feds, because remember, these monies ultimately come from the federal government, and they have to make certain assurances to the federal government that people that they are contracting with have been told several things. So their number one point is to make sure that they're in compliance with the federal guidelines. Now, whether or not you pass the test or not, that's up to you. And if you should happen to pick up one or two things, then that's good. But I'll tell you without a shadow of a doubt that you're not going to pass it just based on what you hear on those 2 days. And if you don't believe me, you can get in contact with any number of folks who've gone down there and who believe that, and their testimony is going to be, no, I couldn't, and no, they didn't. And another interesting thing is this. I'm going to say they average about between 100 and 125 people that they invite. Oh, yeah, let me just say this. Even though you submit a packet, that don't mean you're going to get automatically invited down to the PAO. They have to accept your packet. It has to be within a certain percentile, and then you'll get invited. So let's say they get 300 packets. They invite anywhere between 100 and 125 different companies to come down. Then of those people, of those companies, when it comes time to take the test, at the end of the day, I want you to take a guess. How many people you think, because once you pass that test, because your paperwork has already been accepted, once you pass that test, you're going to get a contract. I want you to take a guess. Say out of 125 people, how many people are going to get that contract? If you said anywhere between 21, 22, 25, that's about right. So now, and this is just for your information, and I want you to understand that the testing is a critical part of becoming an HCS provider. Now, let me back up and say, not just anybody can go take the test either, because when you fill out your application, they ask you who is your program manager and who is going to be the person to take that test. That means whoever your program manager is going to be the one that you've identified to take the test. This is really, really important in HCS, because guess what? The program manager or that person that you put on your application, it may be you, it may be somebody else, but that person is going to be the only one allowed in the room at the time of the test to take the test. Okay? And if that person does not pass it, then you have to start all over. And get this, there are no substitutions. So if that person gets sick, if that person has a car wreck, look, if that person goes to lunch and is 25 minutes late, they won't be admitted. So I want to emphasize that during your application, when you're filling out that application, whoever's name you put on that line as your program manager and the designated person to take that test is going to play an essential part of whether or not you become an HCS contract provider. Now, let me also say that you can't just designate anybody to be your program manager. The rules are real clear. This person must have had at least 3 years of documented. They're going to want you to send in 3 reference letters. And these reference letters have to be from people who say, I have worked with this person. They have demonstrated an ability to implement, write, carry out policies designed to help safeguard and protect people who have IDD. So in other words, you may have been a case manager and an excellent one for 10 years. But if you don't have the administrative skills of writing policy, implementing policy, carrying out policy, developing policy, then you really don't qualify as a program manager. And this is not easy to do. This person is not hard to identify. I mean, it's not easy to identify. In other words, you're not just going to pull somebody off the street and say, hey, you come be my program manager. Remember, I'm emphasizing this because it is so important. The program manager must have documented experience in implementing, developing, and carrying out policies and administrative duties for people who have IDD. The program manager must be the one who takes the test. And before you ask me, they must score at least 85 or above in order to pass the test. So now, these are the very basic kinds of things that you must have in order to get the HCS contract. I invite you, I can't tell you every little thing, but these are the highlights by far. I'm going to review them one more time. You must complete the application. No, let me back up. There are certain things you have to get done even before you can do the application, okay? Then you have to do the application. Then you have to develop your policies and procedures. You must have a program manager on board. The program manager must be the one who is identified to take the test, and you must take the test and make at least 85% in order to be offered a contract. Now, if you need more information, please, y'all, I'd be happy to talk in detail. Just go to my website, blessedbeginning.biz, click on webinar, or better yet, you can consult with me. We'll talk about that when I finish talking about the assisted living contract. You can consult with me in these number 19 days. I can do it on Zoom. I can do it over the telephone. I'd be happy to talk with you further in detail and answer some specific things. As a matter of fact, after this webinar, I will be available live for a little while to take your questions related to the HCS program. Now, let's go and talk and switch over to the assisted living facility, okay? Now, the assisted living facility is similar to HCS in that it is also a contract that you must submit to the state in order to be an assisted living provider. Now, y'all, the assisted living facility is more like a traditional group home that you see. It is an actual place, an actual location where where you take people in and help them with their daily routine, and that's all you do. You don't have the other components. You are what we commonly known as a group home. Now, there are certain rules and regulations. So the first thing for an assisted living provider, is you must submit the application, okay? And then you're going to have a physical site. In other words, you're going to have a location where you plan to deliver these services, okay? And then the other thing about your location, it can be any location that you feel is safe and that you can keep people safe. But the number one thing that I talk to people about when they say, I would like to be an assisted living provider, is that the rules changed on us, y'all, and effective right now, and really yesterday too. You have to have a sprinkler system in your facility. I bring that up because you will not get a license. You will not get a contract if you do not have a sprinkled home or a sprinkled facility. Now, this is important because these sprinkler systems are based on the price range based on the number of square footage. And these sprinkler systems have to have being installed by a licensed installer who can go to the city, get all of those permits and do all those things. And you will have to have those things available before your contract is issued. Now, let me say that again. Not only do you have to submit an application, but you have to have a facility. And your facility must be sprinkled. In other words, like when you go to a hotel and you see those little things up there, all those little waterhead things, you've got to have that in your facility. And the price of that can be expensive to very expensive. So please check that out as you consider the assisted living model. Now, the other thing that you have to have in addition to your contract and a location is you have to have a license. And these licenses are called Type A and Type B licenses. They are not very difficult, but they do cost you money. And you will have to apply to get them. And you won't get them if you don't have a sprinkle system in your location. Also, for the assisted living, they have rules. Yes, they do. And you have to have a policy and procedural manual designed to show how you're going to implement those rules and implement them in such a way that when people come to your facility, that they will be kept in a safe way. Now, your clients in an assisted living can be anyone. They can have IDD or not. They can be seniors or not. They can be anyone who needs a little bit more help and supervision in their day-to-day lives. And the assisted living facility is pretty close to, there's another model called the room and board model, which is where people pay you to come in and live in the facility, and you may provide a meal a day, but you provide the shelter. Now, the assisted living is different because the state will pay you a daily rate in addition to the room and board. So this is the model that most people see. And this is, you may have 10 people, you may have 100 people, but it's all assisted living depending on how many beds you request and how many beds you are approved for and how many beds your facility can safely hold in a sprinkled location. I have enjoyed this time with you. Once again, I've only talked about 2 of the most popular group home models that I know of. There are many. We have talked about the HCS model, and we have talked about the assisted living model. On maybe some future webinars, we'll get into some of the others. What I encourage you to do is I will send you a list of the top 10 most lucrative ones that I usually talk with based on a number of factors. The requests that I get from the public for particular types of contracts, the ease of getting a contract, the ease of getting customers, and the complexities in the contracting process. So if you will go to blessedbeginning.biz and and click on the webinar button and say, yes, send me the list of, and I will send this to you absolutely free. The top 10 group home businesses based on what I think they are. Now, they may not be, but it's what I think they are. Okay, I will send that to you, and all you have to do is go to the website and request that. Now, I want to talk about some other things. If you're interested, and I strongly encourage you, because you have to have a passion for helping people. If you're interested, if you thought about, this is what you want to do, let me encourage you to go ahead and start preparing. There are some things that you need to do, like I say, before you even start your application process. If you're interested in that, I can get you a list of things that I know that most people have to do before they even start the application. Let me just put it this way. For everyone that's listening to me tonight, if you will go to my website, you will find that I am free. And I'm like this, I have some packets available. I can do face-to-face consultation with you, but in number 19, who wants to do that? And so I have waived those. And one of the things that I've done, because I know how funny money is during this time, is giving this webinar, because usually this is something that I invite people to for a fee. But because of the nature of the times that we're in, we're doing it this way. But now I still offer phone or Zoom consultation. If you have some more specific times, you will find, if you want to do that, you can go to the website. You can find and you can specify what times and dates are good for you, and you can find the rates for those times and dates. I am offering several specials just because of this webinar, because I want to encourage you. If you're home, there are certain things you can be doing right now that won't cost you anything. And I encourage you to go ahead and get started, because a dream not started is just a hope. And, give it a try. At least do something. So go to my website, check out some of the specials. If you just want, I will send you the list of the other homes if there are some of those, or even if they're not on the list, you can still call me or email me and say, Doris, what about this? Can you talk to me about this? If I don't know about it, I'll say, I don't know about that one. But if I do know about it, I'll say, yeah, I can talk to you about that one. And I can tell you what I think, or, what I think the things are that you need to know, the most important things you need to know about that contract, and what I think you're going to have to do in order to get an actual contract. Because the application process is one thing, actually getting the contract is another. Now, I want to encourage you anyway. I am doing this thing once a month, and it's just for people who are interested in the business, and maybe you feel like the time ain't right, or you want to just keep up with it. I do a live with Doris, and I do that once a month. And I do it just like this, except for I'm live, and you can hear everything that I think about contracting. And y'all, I not only talk about group home contracting. If I heard it through the grapevine, I'm going to say I heard it through the grapevine that there are some contracts doing this, that, or the other. Or if anything startling happens, like all of a sudden our state loses the waiver and we're no longer going to be getting HCS contracts, or if there's another big contracting opportunity. I talk about things like that. But here's what's real interesting to you. After I finish running my mouth, this live with Doris lasts for about an hour. But then after that, you can email me, or you can, and I do it, y'all. I'm not sure Zoom is so popular, but really GoToMeetings is my format. But you'll be able to talk back to me. And for those of you who may not have any questions, I always encourage you to hang in there for the whole hour, because I promise you somebody will say something or ask a question and say, oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I wish I had known that. It's just informative. And if nothing else, if you have a dream, you've got to spend some time, or your dream, it will get more and more hazy, and the day-to-day kinds of pressures will drive it away. So I encourage you to sign up for Live with Doris. It only happens once a month. You can find more information about this on the website as well. There are some other kinds of things. Just for listening to me on this webinar, you may want to do all those things. And y'all, we have a gigantic package which will allow you consultation time. It will allow you the lists that are available, and it will allow you access with live with Doris. And there may be some other things that you just want to click on just because you're on the website. Listen, I've enjoyed this so very much, and I hope to be hearing from you soon. I'm going to say it one more time. My website is blessedbeginning.biz. If you want to email the question, let me encourage you to do so at dgbenjamin18@gmail.com. That's dgbenjamin18@gmail.com. Now, y'all, the only technical thing that I'm really good at is texting. And I'm going to give you this number. So if you're good at texting, I want you to text me at this number right here, 214. Oh, no, that's not right. Oh, well, never mind. I don't got my other number for texting, okay? But you can email me, and you can contact me through the website, and you can fax me 682-301-3088, 682-301-3088. And if you want to email me and say, Doris, I'm a texter too, give me that phone number. Maybe by then I will have found that text number. Right now, it'll lose me. I want to wish each of you a prosperous future, and may you have a great group home.